If you asked young Arabs in the Middle East, who is your greatest ally in the whole world, what was the top answer? Hi, I'm Sarah Forster, news editor here at The National, and welcome to this week's edition of A Closer Look. Now, this year's Arab Youth Survey results have been partially released, and so that's what we're going to look into today, because the attitudes and opinions of Arabs between 18 and 24 in the region have changed in some ways and not in others. To talk more about this, we have our special projects editor, Jaman Jarella, in the office with me. Thank you for coming in.
Of course.
So let's talk about, first of all, I mean, there is a consistent theme in these surveys from year to year, and that is that people are pretty fond of the UAE.
Yes, they are. I think since they started doing the survey more than 10 years ago now, every single year, the UAE comes out on top as the country that most young Arabs, and by young Arabs I mean like 18 to 24-year-olds, wish to live in. And I think the reasons for that are, I mean, we live in this country, so perhaps it's obvious for us, but the reason why most young Arabs might want to live here is because this country invests so much in its development and infrastructure. There are opportunities for young Arabs to work here. Safety and security is always cited as like a top reason for why people might want to live here. And I think looking across the region and seeing some of the instability in other countries, we can see why that would be an appealing thing for people.
Yeah, I mean, we just did a story, didn't we, about how, like, Dubai alone, there's like 90,000 plus people coming to Dubai every year. You know, you can see it on our website, we did a story about, like, how can the Emirate handle it, what needs to be developed. Like, clearly, a lot of the attitude in the region is that this is kind of the place to be.
Yeah, definitely. And we're seeing other Gulf countries start to creep up into the like top 5 that they select each year, and a bit more of a movement away from, like, previously would have been more like Canada and the US. And the Canada and US do actually appear in the top 5, but like I think Qatar has edged in this year as well, and again it's for all that like development that you see happening there. Saudi Arabia was listed as a country that a lot of young people would like their country to emulate for the same reasons again. So I think having also strong leadership has helped a lot.
So the Arab Youth Survey is normally released all in one big chunk. However, this year it's their 15th anniversary and they're sort of releasing it in installments. So the information that we got this week also pertained to how young Arabs in the region feel about each other's countries. So if we just look at the small stage first and talk about how do they feel about the other countries in this region? Like, who comes out on top? Who's the best?
So Qatar comes out on top so young Arabs view or perceive Qatar to be their greatest ally right now in the region. And I think it's important to remember when this study was conducted. It was it was during Ramadan this year, but it was like just after the World Cup, so obviously sentiments for Qatar would be much higher. Qatar did a really great job of it felt like rallying all these like young Arabs around, and I saw lots of like flags of other countries being waved, so I think people felt like a great kinship with Qatar at the time. Other countries on there were like Kuwait, the UAE and Saudi, as well as Egypt, so it was mostly like GCC countries, and then Egypt too, which has been like, I mean, historically a strong ally for this region anyway.
And then what if we look at the global stage? So if you asked young Arabs in the Middle East, who is your greatest ally in the whole world, what was the top answer?
Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, it was Turkey this year, and then China next. So we're seeing kind of this move away from historical allies in the region like the US, UK and Europe, which is not a surprise to me, honestly, because I feel like the region has, well, certain, like maybe in the Levant, young Arabs I think are a little bit tired of foreign meddling in their country, and are sort of looking to like new allyship and diversifying their like allyship in the region. Turkey I think is an interesting example because culturally are quite perhaps similar, and again I should preface this with like not all Arabs are the same. Like the variance across the region is huge. We're not this like homogenized group, and obviously it changes based on your socioeconomic background, your religion, your ethnicity, like so many different things. But predominantly it seemed 18 to 24-year-olds in the region felt that Turkey was most aligned or most an ally for them, I guess, because it is like a more welcoming place for young Muslims, of which in the Arab world is a majority. And there's lots of cultural exchange. There's also like a strong economy. I think, again, the context of the survey is important because this happened, it took place soon after the earthquake that happened. So again, there was like a rallying cry among the like young Arabs in the region, actually Arabs of all age, to kind of like support and help each other during that horrific time. And then China, I think, is a little bit more obvious to me because it's like this economic and industrial powerhouse. And so people in the region are starting to see the potential in a stronger allyship with them. There's also been like a warming of diplomatic ties in the region, specifically in the Gulf, and I think that has been seen in the survey too.
Yeah, one of the points that the survey results made was that the majority of young Arabs in this region would like the US to disengage. However, when we looked at the results of, who do you feel is more of an ally, more of an enemy, when it came to the US, the majority still saw it as an ally.
Yeah.
But when it came to those that didn't, it was very it was a strong emotion, right?
Yeah, not as much of a nuanced response because they separate it by like strong enemy, somewhat of an enemy, and then like strong ally, somewhat of an ally. And it was very like, it was either you disliked the US or you were okay with them. There was no like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
I think ultimately you can't deny that like the US still has strong influence in most countries, but definitely in this region. But you can definitely see that people are kind of in this region have had enough. There is a long history of meddling in the region, specifically like in the Levant, and I think just young Arabs are tired of it. They just want to see their countries progress and get better without any of these like ulterior motives coming into play. And just to bring it back to Turkey and specifically China, you don't have that kind of like tarnished history in the same way that you would perhaps with the US.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, well, thank you so much for coming in, Jiman.
Of course. Hey.
Well, that's it for this week's edition of A Closer Look, brought to you from right here in the National's newsroom. Remember, all of our previous episodes can be found on our YouTube channel, and if you have any suggestions for a future episode, you can leave your comment in the box underneath.